Hello and welcome. We start with the highlight of the Africa Day 2025 celebrations in India's capital. New Delhi threw a diplomatic curveball without calling names. Now on the stage was India's External Affairs Minister, Jaishankar. He drew sharp lines in India's diplomatic playbook. And this time, it wasn't aimed at China. Jaishankar didn't outrightly mention Beijing, but he didn't have to. Listen to this.
Our engagement has been guided by the 10 principles enunciated by Prime Minister Modi, which reaffirm that Africa's goals and agenda are India's priority. Unlike extractive models of engagement, India believes in an inclusive, demand-driven development cooperation by way of building local capacity and creating local opportunities, ensuring that African countries not only benefit from investments, but also develop self-sustaining growth ecosystems.
Extractive models of engagement. That's the takeaway here. Jaishankar was calling out predatory partnerships. It was a reference to China's debt-fueled strategy in Africa. In contrast, Jaishankar pointed out India's approach, and he highlighted how it is committed to the overall development of the continent.
India is committed to the overall development of Africa by keeping our markets open, sharing our experiences with the digital revolution to support Africa's development, improving delivery of public services, spreading education and digital literacy in Africa, strengthening African agriculture, and working with African nations to keep the oceans open and free for the benefit of all nations.
So what are China's extractive models? It's Beijing's heavy investment that comes with heavier terms and conditions. Between 2000 and 2023, Chinese loans are estimated to surpass $170 billion. Ethiopia, Angola, Kenya, Nigeria all owe heaps of money in Chinese loans. In 2023, Chinese loans to the countries in Africa hit a severe year high. And we also have to talk about China's BRI, or the Belt and Road Initiative. It is a massive global infrastructure project which funds roads, ports, and railways in developing countries. And the model operates mainly through heavy loans. In Africa alone, the BRI loans have funded billions in construction that has left many African countries deep in debt and pushed economies to the brink of collapse. But these loans come with catches. The contracts often require using Chinese companies, mandatory Chinese contractors, and nations struggle to repay, and when they can't, China seizes strategic assets like ports and mines. Beijing calls it development, but critics have accused it of engaging in debt diplomacy. In short, the model extracts more and empowers less. And that's what Jaishankar was referring to during his speech. India's take is different. It has trained over 37,000 Africans under scholarship programs, expanded its diplomatic presence in Africa to 46 missions, and even set up an IIT campus, which is in Zanzibar, Tanzania. Now, all of these initiatives reflect India's honest intentions. On a day marking Africa's struggles, Jaishankar drew parallels to India's own colonial past. He pushed for Africa's voice on the global stage, including a seat at the UNSC.
Africa Day 2025 is being marked with the theme of justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations. We in India can fully empathize with Africa's pain, having been subjected to loot, pillaging, and slavery ourselves by colonial powers. While nations of the world have regained their freedom, the legacy of the past remains strong in the global order.
And with that, he made it clear, development should not look like a debt trap. So Chinese loans build ports, but India's model builds trust. And it's getting increasingly transparent who's here to drain resources and who's here to share growth. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Gurjit Singh, the former ambassador to the African Union, joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you for being with us, Ambassador.
Happy to be with you.
Now, among the world's leading economies, it is India that has shown the most interest and initiative to engage with the global south today, with a focus on Africa. Now, it also seeks to leverage its position as a major global actor. How can India take its Africa partnership forward?
Thank you. So, India's global south position owes a lot to its successful development cooperation with Africa. And that is what I call the Harambe factor, the factor of cooperative partnership. So India runs through the private sector, people-to-people contact, and trade and investment-led partnership with a large dose of capacity building. Now, that model is not easy to replicate. It may not cover as much as the Chinese model does, but I think it reaches more people in Africa than any other model. That is why India wishes to take this forward in a modern sense. And what I hear Dr. Jaishankar say is precisely this. Between 2023 and 2024, Africa's FDI doubled from 48 billion to 100 billion. India already provides 75 billion of private sector FDI to Africa. In the last 25 years, Africa's trade has gone up by 5 times. And today, India is among the top 3 trading partners of Africa. Now, this is not incentive-based trade or economy. It is a compatriot-based model. Well, that's why I call it the Harambe model. So, to build local capacities, for instance, critical minerals, 30% are in Africa. India just doesn't want to extract them and take them away. India would like to build processing supply chains which will help African countries to build local capacities, have regional trade, and take things forward so that African industry becomes a part of global supply chains. It is this that takes India to a new level as we look at South-South cooperation.
Right. And Ambassador, what tangible outcomes or initiatives demonstrate this India's commitment to capacity building and, of course, technology transfer in African countries?
On one hand, there are a very large number of scholarships, which you have already mentioned. There are also several institutions in Africa which India has funded. You mentioned one, the IIT in Zanzibar, which is 2 years old. But there are a very large number of IT training centers in Ghana, Morocco, Senegal, Ethiopia, in Egypt, and many other places. Then there are the vocational training centers. One of our most successful projects is the Entrepreneurship Development and Training Center in Senegal and the Kofi Annan Center for IT Excellence in Accra. Like that, there are many. But I think what is now happening is that private sector investment is bringing in CSR to support capacity building in Africa so that more Africans can join Indian and other industry as they get trained. This is very important because Africa's median age is 19 and we must skill the young people and involve them in constructive work.
Absolutely. And to what extent are African nations receptive to India's development-centric model of engagement? And how does it influence their foreign policy or economic decisions?
I think in the modern world, everything is transactional. You love one country today till something goes wrong, and then you love another one. But I think India is a constant suitor of Africa. Our relationship is old. We were the first development partner of Africa when African countries became free. The ITEC program was started in 1964, a year after the OAU came into effect. Everybody else with development programs actually came later. What we are seeing now is that African countries tend to see what is in their interest. And they see in India a model of democracy, pluralism, and rapid economic growth, which all of them want to emulate. None of them, frankly, want to emulate China or the UK for that matter, but they want to emulate India. So the fact that India's model is acceptable, doable, and can bring direct benefits to the people make African countries look at India as a benign model. Now, does that extend to fulsome foreign policy strategic collaboration? Well, we see more of it happening on the Indian Ocean coast. Recently, with the visit of the president of Angola, we have seen it also spread to the Atlantic coast. India's large imports of energy from West Africa have given strategic relationship a new dimension, and India's anti-piracy operations have helped Africa both in security and in the economy. So I think this is a good time for India-Africa economic part and other partnership in the fulsome foreign policy sense.
Ambassador, thank you for being with us on Firstpost Africa and for your valued insights there.
Thank you very much. Good day.
Firstpost now available in 9 languages on YouTube. English,
$36 trillion.
French,
Le FMI, comme
German,
Geschäftsführenden Direktor,
Hindi,
$30 trillion ka karjo.
Indonesian,
Pemerintah tanpa pemeriksaan.
Italian,
Sekali radikali.
Japanese,
4 兆ドル以上も
Portuguese,
por causa do próprio balanço patrimonial.
Spanish.
Beautiful bill.
Go to Settings, click on Audio Track and select a language of your choice. Be the first to know what's happening around you in your first language. Firstpost.